Yeah, well, thank you, Tim. And I mean, we've known each other for some time from the Japan and worked the same institution but different times. Uh, yeah. So I'm Lena, and I moved from Japan to Norway in the middle of pandemic crisis, and I'm now self-employed, teaching online. So today I want to talk about foreign language anxiety, something that's quite big in Japan, but we will touch on this a bit later. So I thought like the best way would be probably to start with a bit of reflection. So I want you guys to try to remember. So, well, first of all, what other languages do you speak apart from your mother tongue? You can just say it, or you can just post a message into the chat. All languages you speak. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, seems like most of us are quite multilingual here. I myself speak several languages. So, what I want you to do is, I want you to try to recall the first time you had to speak in your second language or third language or fourth, whichever. So, I want you to think, to recall that situation, how you felt before you had to do it, how you felt in the process, and how you felt after doing it. Okay? So you can take a minute to just like sit like and recall. Okay? Okay, so we have 5 people. I think we can just have 2 groups, uh, a pair and a group of 3 in breakout rooms. So your task will be obviously just to exchange your memories. So nothing to be uh, embarrassed about, nothing to be worried about. So let's just share. And after that, I'll share my story. So I'll also participate. Okay. So,
Okay, so just added you. Oh, yeah, people are gone. Okay. How do I join the room? I probably want to be in the same. Yeah. Okay.
saying it and like panicking and not knowing is it correct, is it gonna work? But after, obviously, I felt like, whew, so relieved. I did it. And they understood me, which is even more amazing. But that probably was like, that was not the last situation where I felt anxious about using a foreign language. It happened so many times in Japan when I would like just, okay, you can do it, and feeling like I probably need some pill to make myself, feel a bit more calm about that. So it happens to basically everyone, and I think every language learner has this kind of story. Definitely. So moving on from us as learners to us as teachers, the next reflection I want to have is to think of your classroom, a physical one, a virtual one. So, especially for those who work with groups, maybe, but also with private students, one on one is okay. So, when you assign a communicative task, what happens? Does the look on your students' faces change? Do you feel like the change in the atmosphere maybe? Because I know we teachers are quite sensitive to these things. So try to think like, Usually, when you assign a communicative task, what happens in the classroom? Okay, so you can maybe take again a minute to just think about this. Yeah. Okay. So I think we can go to breakout rooms once again. Hopefully, different groups now, so that we had a chance to talk to everyone. Yeah. So I'll be joining
that's
as
good.
well.
We just have one more person join.
Oh,
So just give me a. So do you
sure.
want to really quickly just ask again? I still joining. Give us 1 sec, and we can.
I think we should wait a bit because still connecting to audio.
Yeah. So I'll put you guys in rooms, and I'll explain, and I'll send them off. That's fine. Okay.
So yeah, so once again, what happens when you assign a communicative task? Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I got all these comments through conducting what I call the dialogical feedback activity, where students were invited to anonymously share how they felt during the class. And this basically actually the first, how I realized that some of them are extremely anxious about what's going on. I did notice some cases when students would just completely stop talking. Then I was like, yeah, something's probably wrong there. But in many cases, they do keep talking, and it seems like it's fine. But inside, they're panicking. They're worried. Uh, they're constantly thinking, oh my God, what other people think of me? I sound so awful, and so on. But we don't notice it because we are basically all people, I would say, quite good at pretending everything's going fine. So especially if you are taking classes in a group, you're probably really good at keeping your face and making an impression that I'm doing just fine. Yeah. So that's what basically actually started me. I mean, that's what made me to start researching foreign language anxiety, to understand my students better and to see how I can help them. So this brings us to what to this question: what is foreign language anxiety, basically? So in the first place, it's an emotion. It's a worry, nervousness that often hinders learning process and in some cases completely blocks learners from performing any kind of language task. And we've all witnessed that probably at some point. Uh, However, saying that foreign language anxiety is merely an emotion would be too simple because it's a whole mixture of emotions: fear, tension, embarrassment, insecurity, and confidence. There are so many things happening just at once. And obviously, it is influenced by our beliefs about language learning, by our past experiences we had with the language, and our personal background. So, for example, students who had some negative learning experiences in the past will probably be more anxious about performing language tasks in the future just because they had it proven to them that it's not as easy and it may be even painful at some point. So foreign language anxiety can take many forms. It's not just, oh, I can't find the word. Uh, it also can be a fear of being misunderstood or misunderstanding someone. It can be a fear of being negatively evaluated by your peers and laughed at. It can be a fear of mispronouncing a difficult word or using wrong grammar. So basically, language anxiety happens everywhere. Yeah, it's not just about not being able to speak. So when the research into foreign language anxiety just started, two types were differentiated. One of which was called debilitating anxiety, which is a worry that has a negative effect on our students' performance in the language classroom. So it's bad anxiety, the one that we probably don't want to see that much in our classroom. So another classification distinguishes between trait and state anxiety. Trait anxiety describes a regular pattern of being worried in particular situations. Yeah, so it's kind of a personality trait, we can say, a predisposition to be anxious in some certain situations. So whenever the situation happens, the response is always anxiety. While state anxiety is an on-spot response to the current situation. So it's just triggered all of a sudden. Yeah. For example, something happens that might feel threatening, a mistake made in front of the whole group or a task that is too challenging, and state anxiety is born. So we teachers might not even notice that, right? So especially when our students try super hard to hide it, and they do try because, come on, look around, everyone seems to be doing okay. It's only you who feels out of place. So gather yourself and prove that you can do it. So in communicative language teaching, which forces students to speak second language from day one, in a way, there is a whole range of tasks and situations that can provoke foreign language anxiety. Okay. So I remember having a lesson with 5 Japanese teenagers. They're all looking down, and in fact, they never look me in the eyes. I ask a question, and they put their heads even lower, and some of them even try to shrink in size, like if they wanted to disappear. It's a yes/no question. I mean, I have learned my lesson of not asking any open-ended questions, but even just saying yes or no seems to be extremely difficult for them. And those of you who have taught in Japan can relate to this situation. And Japanese learners, especially teenagers and young adults, have higher levels of anxiety, foreign language anxiety, than their European peers, because Japanese culture is a lot about holding a face. It's called tatemae, yeah, what other people see. And it's also a lot about perfectionism, and it causes learners there to be especially anxious about making a mistake and thus being judged. As a result, they prefer more often to remain silent and can be unwilling to communicate at the beginning. So usually as the time goes by, they get used to it and they open up. But the first several weeks with your Japanese learners, especially teenagers, can be really hard for all of you. So, and this is supported by research. So foreign language anxiety and willingness to communicate are very popular topics for research among English teachers in Japan, because that's all of them encounter. And for example, Jim King in 2014 conducted a research that was aimed at checking the levels of foreign language anxiety among his learners. So they were university students. And he noticed that they show a significant trend towards silence. And by asking them some questions, he figured out that it's because all of them had fear of being negatively evaluated by their classmates and by their teacher. And they were afraid of making mistakes. And also, interestingly, they were afraid of expressing opinions that were too different from other people's opinions or too difficult for other people to understand. And that what often caused them to just skip their speaking turn and remain silent. So after all this said, sounds like foreign language anxiety is pure evil, but it's not, actually. We shouldn't be too quick to judge. In fact, anxiety does not always prevent learners from performing a task. I mentioned that there was debilitating anxiety, but there is also facilitating anxiety. And as evident from its name, it's the good one. It motivates learners to approach the new task and thus has a positive impact on the learning process. So you all know probably about the affective filter hypothesis, yeah, that when the affective filter is too low, that's also not good. Yeah, if we are not challenged enough, we get bored and maybe even demotivated. Yeah, because it's too simple, so why should I do it at all? So being extremely worried does block our brain, but being emotional about our language learning in general serves as good. And as Meryl Swain said, language learning process itself is not just a cognitive process, but also a cognitive and emotional struggle. Cognition and emotions in second language learning are inseparable, and we have to take this fact into consideration. So, as we say in Russia, you cannot trim a song of its words, so you cannot trim language learning process of emotions involved in it. But the question is, what can you do? Yeah, if how to make sure this debilitating anxiety, the worry that does not help our learners at all, is not too strong, and how to make sure that we create the right level of challenge. Yeah, how to make facilitating anxiety our friends, how to push them to attempt the task and succeed. So, and this brings us here. Yeah, what can we do? So, what I'm offering to do is for you to reflect on what kind of strategies could we employ in our classrooms to make sure our students are not extremely worried, anxious, nervous. So what can we do to make them feel better? Okay, so you will be put maybe in two groups, yes, 3 or 4 people, not pairs. And what you will have to do is to come up with at least 5 different strategies, okay, on how to diminish the level of bad foreign language anxiety. Yeah. Okay. So you will be given at least 10 minutes for that, because obviously you have to do a lot of discussion and so on. Okay.
Okay, super. So shall I send people off?
Yep.
Okay.
Please. Make them feel not worried, because it's impossible, but to make sure that this feeling does not hinder their learning process, does not prevent them from achieving success in language learning, but the opposite. It makes them move forward, accept the challenges, yeah, and keep developing. So that's basically our goal when it comes to foreign language anxiety. Not to get rid of it, I would say, but to try to change the negative impact it might have to a positive one. Yes. And I'll tell a bit about what I did with my students. I have mentioned it briefly before, the dialogical feedback activity. So it basically looked like this. One of the main features was that it was anonymous. I taught groups and it was anonymous. And when students were handing their strips to me, they were allowed to turn them the like face down. Yeah, so I didn't see the handwriting. And once I would collect them, I would shuffle them in front of the students, making sure like I definitely don't know who gave me which piece of paper. So the questions usually were very simple. The first question would focus on the positive side. Yeah, what did you like about today's lesson? What was like something interesting about today's lesson? Or just rate this lesson, and there would be like 5 stars for them to color. So whichever. And the second question was focused on something kind of negative. Yeah, was there anything difficult? What and why? Yeah. Was there something that made you feel nervous today? And so on. So I would change questions every week to make sure they don't get too used to them, and so that it doesn't become too automatic. So I had a whole like range of different questions prepared, and what I would do after that is I would look at the answers to the second question, and I would reply to my students. And in the next class at the beginning, I would hand them out pieces of paper with my reply, where I would give them some advice, maybe just encouragement if needed, maybe some specific advice like what you can do. So I have some example here. Yeah, for example, 2 of you said they couldn't give more details about their opinions. Maybe at home, because you have the textbook, you can look in advance, maybe Google a bit in Japanese. Yeah, write down some ideas. So basically, I was mostly focused on equipping them with some strategies and encouraging them, saying like, "You did great. Everything was fine. Yeah, everything's gonna be fine." And at the end, I conducted a survey asking my students to evaluate the activity, and the response was positive. They said that it helped them to feel more relaxed, that it helped to create a positive atmosphere, that they were not afraid of making mistakes, and that it was useful for them to learn about how to prepare for their classes, because the homework is to read the text. So the students just follow it to the book, just read the text. And they don't always understand that there's a bit more than that. So yeah, basically this activity was successful. So this is something you could also try doing with your students if you teach groups. With my private students, I usually just ask them at the end of the lesson, like, how do you feel today? Maybe not even in English, but in their L1. Yeah, I teach Russian students. And they said like maybe we could, like, I felt fine today, for example. I learned this and this. Or like I also ask them like anything if we want to change. Sometimes say, oh, can we like look at this topic? I feel like I'm not good at this, for example. So, and based on this, I adapt my syllabus as well. So basically what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to help my students reflect on emotions they have during the language learning process. Yeah, and if there is any like sign of anxiety, for example, a student was like breaking in the middle too many times, then we can stop and like have, okay, are you okay? Like, everything's fine. Yeah, do you need any help? Do you want to break a bit? Like, just sometimes I have students, sometimes they talk and they just, I don't know how to say it. You see what's going, and they often say, do you see what's going on with me? I can't say anything. And I then I say, okay, it's okay, just breathe. And usually it makes them laugh. I don't know why. But as soon as they laugh, I know it's gonna be fine. Because there is some positive emotion involved. And we just breathe a bit, like breathe out. Okay. Come. Mm-hmm. Okay, and let's try again. So that's what you can do. Sometimes I found that being a bit silly, like in front of the students also helps. And as some of you mentioned, I like this one. Or was it on the Padlet? Someone said, "Be prepared to make mistakes. Be willing to make mistake in your students' L1." Yeah, I was sometimes using Japanese with my Japanese students, and I knew my Japanese wasn't that good, of course, and I would make mistakes, and like some students would laugh, but no, I mean not angrily or anything, just like, oh, teacher, no, you have to say this, not this. Okay, teach me. And sometimes we would like, I would try to write the translation, for example, in kanji, and would write the wrong one, and then some student would, oh, teacher, can I go and like correct your kanji? Sure, do it. And I would tell them, see, I'm learning your language. I'm not good. I'm trying though. Yeah, I make mistakes, but it's okay. You're here to help me. So same goes for me. You're learning English. You make mistakes, but I'm here to help you. So it's about cooperation. So basically, all of these strategies we use serve one big purpose: to create a positive atmosphere in the end, to make our students feel more relaxed, more open to making mistakes, to let them understand that no one is here to judge. It's quite the opposite. Like, all of you are afraid of the same thing, all of your friends here, so we're here to support each other. And I'm here to support each other. So the teacher is not someone who just like shouts at you when you do something wrong. Of course not. The teacher is someone who's always there to help you, and who, above all, is interested in you having good time in the classroom, disregarding of what you do, what kind of topics you look at, you work with. I, as a teacher, I believe all of us as teachers, in the first place, interested in our students having a positive experience. Okay, so so that's basically what I wanted to tell you, what I wanted to share with you. So what we're going to do now is, I want you to take some time to think. So you have all the strategies on the Padlet, and you have some strategies as well on this slide I'm sharing at the moment. So I want you to choose 3 strategies you find interesting and you would like to try with your learners. So your task is not only to choose, but also to justify your position. Why these strategies? Why do you find them most interesting and maybe potentially most useful? Okay? So, Tim, maybe we can put people in groups for this one. Oh, you're muted.
I usually am so good at not being muted. That's terrible. Okay. Right. So how many groups would you like? 2 again?
So we have how many people?
We've got 7 left. So if we do, including us, so I think probably 2 is about.
Yeah, I think maybe 2 groups should be fine.
Okay. Cool. All right. So I will open those rooms now. Everyone knows what they're doing. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
If you have this, is there any way you could copy paste this?
Sure.
This list into the
chat the list
first,
because
people are going to not be able to see it when we put them in breakout rooms.
I just realized that. Copy. It's a bit difficult with the second screen because the screen is on the left, but I have to move my cursor.
I know
right,
the kind of thing. Yes.
So, it's so counterintuitive. Like, really. Okay, here it is.
You can just take a photo, for example.
That's a great idea.
I mean the participants.
Guys, you can take a screenshot, or I can also copy it here. But let me share it like this, and you guys can just take a screenshot. Yeah.
Okay, and then when you've got it, I'll open the rooms now, and then yeah.
I got
All
it.
Set? Yeah, everyone.
Okay.